In 591 AD, Maurice, emperor of the Roman Byzantine Empire, ended the Byzantine-Sasanian War of 572 to 591 by restoring Khosrow II to the throne in Sassanid Persia. In return, the Sassanids returned northeastern Mesopotamia, much of Persian Armenia, and Caucasian Iberia to the Byzantines. The Byzantines no longer had to pay tribute to the Sasanians, which was great news to the Byzantine economy. After fighting each other for so long, the Byzantines and the Sasanians became allies, and true friendship emerged between Emperor Maurice and Emperor Khosrow. However, peace would not last long. After long wars against the Avars and the Slavs had weakened the Byzantine economy, Maurice instituted strict fiscal measures, which outraged his troops. Many mutinies against him arose, and in 602 a Thracian centurion, Phocas, was proclaimed emperor by the army. He captured Constantinople and had Maurice executed. In the Sassanid capital of Ctesiphon, the news of Maurice's execution was received with horror. Khosrow saw Phocas as a usurper and ordered preparations for war to begin. He told his high command, "In this war, our goal is noble, the restoration of justice in the city of Constantine." Meanwhile, in the Byzantine Empire, not everyone welcomed the ascension of Phocas to the throne. The governor of the Byzantine Mesopotamia, Nargiz, rebelled against the new government and seized a major city in the province, Edessa. Emperor Phocas instructed General Germanus to defeat the rebellion, which prompted Nargiz to request help from Khosrow. This was great news to the Persian emperor, who accepted the governor's request. Germanus met Khosrow's army in Constantia and was quickly defeated and heavily wounded, dying a few days later. Now, the main gateway of the Edessa was opened when the Persians arrived. This was the first Roman city entered by the Persians in the course of the war and provided great momentum to their campaign. After this great Persian victory, Nargiz ordered Theodosius, the supposed son of Maurice, to be coronated as the new Byzantine emperor. Khosrow then concentrated on capturing the strategically important city of Dara, left Nargiz in control of defending Edessa. Phocas, undeterred by the defeats, sent another General Leontius to the front and ordered his army to be divided in two, sending half of it to defend Dara and the other to attack Edessa. Nargiz was unable to hold out and fled to Hierapolis, but Khosrow was able to engage the other force as it approached Dara. Khosrow defeated Leontius in the battle and took many Roman troops prisoner. Phocas, enraged by this defeat, had Leontius dismissed and replaced by Zomnitziolus, who persuaded Nargiz to give himself up with the promise of a fair trial. However, when Nargiz returned to Constantinople, he was burned at the stake. This did nothing to help the Roman military effort, as Dara would soon fall to the Persians. Khosrow, satisfied with the way the war was going on, delegated the work to his generals and would now return victorious to Ctesiphon. In 605, the Persians concentrated on the Armenian front. Khosrow promoted Senetam Khosrow to be in charge of the front, and he did not disappoint. He advanced quickly, and his route took him across Bagravand, north over the mountains and into the Araxes Valley, well to the west of the farthest point reached in 604. In the great plain of Bassion, he met a second, probably larger Roman army, won a second victory, and threw the Romans back across the pre-591 frontier. When finding out about the Roman defeat, Phocas was furious, but could do nothing about it. In 607, the Persians, who were commanded by General Astyatzaya, decided to siege Theodosiopolis. At first, the Romans put up good defense of the city. Then Astat brought out the pretender Theodosius. A deputation of dignitaries from the city was invited to meet him. The audience with him convinced them that he was Maurice's son, and on their return to the city, they convinced their fellow citizens. The gates were then opened and the city formally submitted. When Phocas heard about the fall of the city, he reportedly exploded in rage. Despite this great achievement, Astat was replaced by a new general, Shahen Pakgosapan. He marched across the Araxes-Euphrates watershed and engaged the latest and last effective fighting force fielded by the Romans in Armenia. He won a decisive victory and drove the defeated Roman troops out of the country. Roman defense of their lands east of Euphrates seemed now to have collapsed. Phocas reportedly again exploded in rage after hearing the news. By the winter of 610-611, Shahen's forces had reached the Romans' inner line of defence on the Euphrates, where the river turns south and forces its way against the grain of the relief towards the Taurus and beyond, Syria and Mesopotamia. It was clear that the Persian victories would not stop. Unlike in the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, where the population had grown demoralized by the defeats year after year, the atmosphere in the Persian capital of Ctesiphon was naturally victorious. For numerous years, Khosrow was able to declare to his people about the victories the Persian troops had achieved under his rule. The people of the Sassanid Empire truly admired Khosrow, and whenever he gave speeches, numerous flowers were thrown at him. In the speeches he gave to his people, Khosrow talked about the new golden age that had come to the Sassanid Empire, and which would restore the glory of the great Achaemenid Empire, built by Khosrow's hero Cyrus the Great 1,000 years ago. The original goal of war for the Persians was to avenge the murder of Maurice and depose Phocas. Now the goal was total victory over the Byzantine Empire. The proof that this was the Persian goal would be shown by their unwillingness to make peace with a new Byzantine emperor, who soon dethroned Phocas. Defeat after defeat had ruined Phocas' standing as the emperor, and in 608 a revolt broke out in Egypt. The exarch of Africa, Heraclius the Elder, announced that he was breaking his loyalty with Phocas, and the rebels issued coins with him and his son, Heraclius, portraying them as consuls. For a time, neither did claim the title of emperor. In 609, his cousin Nicetas launched an attack on Egypt and successfully conquered the province. The son Heraclius sailed eastward via Sicily and Cyprus to attack Constantinople. The Imperial Guard unit, which was ordered to stop him, deserted to Heraclius, and in October 610 he entered the city with no resistance. When Heraclius captured Phocas, he asked him, "Is this how you have ruled, wretch?" Phocas replied, "And will you rule any better?" This enraged Heraclius, who beheaded him on the spot. The son, Heraclius, became the new emperor of the Byzantine Empire. During this time, the Persians continued to advance. In August 610, the Persians, under the command of General Shahabaraz, broke the Romans' inner line of defence on the Euphrates and captured Zenobia on the right bank of the river. Soon after Heraclius took over, Shahabaraz launched a new offensive and advanced swiftly to the Orontes, capturing Antioch on the 8th of October. He then turned south and took control of the whole Orontes Valley in not much more than a week. The city of Apamea fell on 15th of October. The city of Emesa fell a few days later. By this well-executed thrust, Shahabaraz captured a strategically vital east-west corridor across the open country between Euphrates and Antioch, together with the belt of hills separating Antioch from its port of Cilicia. He thus split the empire in two, leaving each of its own parts: Asia Minor, fronted by Cilicia, to the west, the Levant, backed by Egypt, to the south, exposed to attack. After the news reached the new emperor of the Persian victories, euphoria at his political victory over Phocas quickly evaporated. Heraclius attempted to make peace with the Persians, but Khosrow rejected them and reiterated his support for Theodosius. And it was now clear for Heraclius that his ascension to power would not bring peace and that the war would continue. In 611, the general Shahan launched an invasion of the Asia Minor. He made rapid progress, penetrating deep into Cappadocia and capturing Caesarea, the provincial capital. To capture the city, he had launched a deep, bold strike, which caught the Roman defenders unprepared as well as disorganized. He then expelled much of the population and turned the city's defences against the Romans. However, Shahan would suffer a setback when the Byzantine general Priscus successfully instituted a blockade of the city, trapping Shahan and his troops. During this time, Heraclius decided to visit the army camp at Caesarea, but Priscus refused, fearing correctly that Heraclius would take credit for his victory. This snub angered the Byzantine emperor. Meanwhile, in the south, Byzantine general Nicetas defeated the Persians outside Emesa. However, after that, the Roman victories stopped, as in 612, Shahan and his troops set fire to Caesarea, sallied out, and cut their way through the encircling Roman forces, withdrawing thereafter to Armenia. What could have been a massive Persian defeat was averted. This gave Heraclius the reason to remove Priscus from his position. In 613, Heraclius, having removed Priscus, took command of military operations and decided to go on the offensive. He planned for a major battle, the goal being to completely destroy the Persian army and secure victory for his empire. The battle he sought was fought in the vicinity of Antioch. In the battle, Nicetas and Theodore, brother of Heraclius, assisted the Byzantine emperor in his goal of defeating the Persian army. The Byzantine army made a successful flank and pushed north to the plain of Antioch at the head of the Orontes Valley. The battle was evenly balanced. Both sides suffered heavy losses. Then came a pause, during which the Persians received reinforcements, which allowed the balance to be tipped in their favour. The Romans were defeated, but were able to retreat in good order. They made a successful stand on the pass leading to Cilicia across the Amanus range, but were soon forced to resume the retreat. Heraclius' goal of destroying the Persian army and ensuring victory for the Byzantine Empire had failed. Before the year was out, the Persians also broke out of the southern Orontes Valley. They pushed east and captured the great city of Damascus. In 614, Khosrow pondered his options on what to do next. He decided that the goal now was to inflict a huge symbolic defeat for the Byzantines by capturing one of their most symbolically important places, Jerusalem. And so he ordered Shahabaraz to march and take the city. The general lost no time in mobilizing his army and advanced swiftly against Jerusalem, and by the end of April the city was under siege. On May 17th, the walls were breached, and the Persians fought their way into the city, and on the same day, Jerusalem quickly fell to the Persian army. Memorably, the famous relic, the True Cross, was carried off to the Persian capital of Ctesiphon. The Sasanian Emperor Khosrow II had succeeded. The fall of Jerusalem was a huge symbolic defeat for the Byzantine Empire, and the Byzantine citizens were again demoralized by yet another defeat. Khosrow now wondered on what his next move should be. After defeating the Byzantine Romans numerous times, he had many options and could choose any of them. He could offer peace to Heraclius, who was willing to sign a treaty with conditions which would not be lenient to him, and to the Byzantine Empire he was governing. Another option was to continue the war by strengthening the Persian war effort by taking the economically rich area of Egypt. Or he could strike at the heart of the Byzantine Empire by taking its capital, Constantinople itself. In the beginning of the war in 602, Khosrow, in his speeches he gave, talked about restoring justice in the city of Constantinople. In the coming years, he would prove that by saying those words, he meant total destruction of the Byzantine Empire and the restoration of the great Achaemenid Empire.